Tales from the wild. Stories from the heart. A journey into the mind and soul of fired-up business professionals where they share their vision for the future. And hear from a different non-profit organization every month as they create awareness of their goals and their needs. Dive into a world of untamed passion as we join our host, Shireen Botha, for this month's episode of Friends from Wild Places.
Right, exactly.
What age were you when you actually left the priesthood?
I had just turned, I was 34 or 30. Yeah, 34, just about turning 35. Yeah. Yep.
And if I may ask you I'm very logical, like sequential. So
Sure.
from the time that you had the therapist and that you kind of like discovered your own person as far as the truth, from that time to when you made the decision to leave, how much of a time span?
Yeah. So when I made the decision after several months of thinking like internally, I'd only spoke to one or two people that I was kind of at this moment. I decided to go work with a therapist because I really wanted to test it. Was I like in a crisis? I also knew that if I went to the authorities in the church and said, I think I might like to leave, the first thing they're going to say is, well, have you spoken to someone? So I said, I'm going to be proactive here. I may never have to get to that moment, but I'm going to do that. And I wanted someone who wasn't Catholic. I wanted someone who wasn't part of the church. So I went to this very good Jewish psychologist that I picked him on purpose. I wanted someone neutral. And I went to him, it was in the springtime. And I told the Cardinal that October that I wanted to leave, and I officially left the church. It was in February.
Mm.
So it moved along, and it was a gift. As anyone who's gone through therapy, sometimes you go in thinking it's one thing, but other things come up, and to work through that. So it was a gift to do that inner work, because when I made the decision, when there was some animosity from individuals or some challenging, I was at a peaceful place, and I knew in my heart it was just the right next step.
Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful. And I just wanted to confirm something with you. When you left the priesthood, did you go ahead and give them all your reasons why? Did they even ask you? Did they pry? Did you, did they pry into the reasons why you wanted to leave? Or did they just say, okay?
No, I think, first of all, I went to the Cardinal first. I had a beautiful relationship with him. I still do. I still keep in touch with him. I saw him this past summer. And, I lived with him, right? So like my schedule was his schedule. And every night we used to meet in his office around 9:30 or so, whatever time we got back from an event. And we would go through the schedule for the next day. I might have documents for him to sign. He liked M&Ms. I liked M&Ms. So we always had M&Ms on the desk. So we'd eat some M&Ms and we'd chit chat. But one night I put myself on his schedule. Like I actually made, like, it was me. And he said to me, he said, your name's on the schedule. Is like, what do we have to do? Are we going to something? And I said, no, I need to talk to you about something. Because I wanted it to be said, like, I'm coming in as not the one who works with you and for you. I'm coming in as a priest. And I shared with him kind of, exactly what I've been going through, speaking with someone and asking for support. And he was very good. And he was beautiful to me. He was beautiful. He just looked at me and said, all I could ever ask is for your happiness. I had no idea you were going through all this, and you still gave me 150%. And he really was an incredible support. And he was actually one of my references for my first job when I went to New York City as well. And that was a real gift. And so, yeah, that's where I am. What I did is I took a leave of absence. So that's the best way. There's stages, right? It's like when you are in a relationship and you're going through a divorce, it's like you announce it and then you can say we're separating, right? You know what I mean? It's like now illegal. So it's kind of the same thing. I took a leave of absence, which means at that moment I was no longer receiving any financial support, no health coverage. you kind of sign that all your faculties are kind of taken away. You can't do anything. And you are released to then go find a job and do what you want. I had a job. My intention was to have a job when I left the priesthood, and I did. I was very fortunate. So I was able to do that well. And then after about a year and a half, 2 years later, I formalized the process. It's something called the laicization process. It's actually as a priest, because in the Catholic tradition, for those who are not familiar, to become a priest, it's a sacrament, it's something very sacred. So I met with someone formally. I wrote a letter to the Pope explaining all the reasons why I was leaving, very direct. They had an application come in. And I have to remember the Archdiocese, when they saw my letter, the priest called me, who was in charge of the office, who's now a bishop actually, and he said, "Your letter was the most moving one I've ever read."
Mm.
And I think
Right.
it's because I wasn't angry and I wasn't blaming.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to really move forward. And so I was released from a church standpoint of all faculties. So what that means is if I was straight, I could marry a woman and get married in the church. That's why they have it. Well, that ain't happening. So, I mean, it was just, but I wanted to formalize it. It was a good process to go through.
Right. And so I thought, this story is so beautiful. And it really is a beautiful story because you've shown us two sides here of the Catholic Church. Obviously, the side where a lot of us lost faith, and then the beautiful side where we renew our faith in the Catholic Church because of just the story that you gave us. So I really appreciate you for sharing that story with us. Before we continue, I do want to just plug in here a little bit of a Buzzsprout ad. So podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and the team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. When I started this podcast, I didn't know where to begin and was quite overwhelmed, but using Buzzsprout makes it super easy and straightforward. To start your own podcast and get a $20 Amazon gift card, follow the link in the show notes. This allows Buzzsprout to know that we sent you, and it helps support the show. So Buzzsprout, let's create something beautiful together, like we're doing right now in this interview. So thank you very much for sharing that side of your story, Brian. But I would like to go a little bit more in the founding of Evolution. When you became a business owner and a business advisor, what was your vision you had for Evolution?
So the reason I started Evolution, I actually launched it on November 11th, 2019. And it really was a beautiful moment for me to bring together who I am. So there was that sense of spirituality, and I'm not talking about religion, but that sense of helping people connect to who they are, not just living in their five senses, but their six senses, that's very important. And when I left the priesthood, I was very fortunate. I became an executive in New York City and Toronto, and I wanted to bring that together in a company that would help people to evolve, that, could capitalize and grow on their expertise, but do it in a deep sense of committed to how they felt in their mission, how they wanted to be in the world, and what they wanted to create. And when I founded Evolution, I had no clue that a pandemic like any of us was around the corner. And I had a very different vision when I launched it, thinking I wanted to have a physical office. I wanted to build a team, which I always loved managing a team. And when the pandemic hit, it was easier to grow a business online as the world was going online. And that evolved me into a whole new sphere of services and how I engage. and which is what I love. And I think as a founder, it's very important to be able to release that it's going to change. And you try things and you look at things. And I think that was the flexibility, like that quote, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain, kind of fact and point.
Right.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Do the evolution is evolution squared. How did you come up with evolution? What's the actual, like, where did that come in? You had the one word and then it was it sequential or?
Yeah, so I just had this deep sense of where I was. I knew the word evolution was critical for me. Like I just knew it. Like I just knew that's who I am. That's what I feel one of my purposes in the world is, to help individuals to evolve. And, to be quite honest with you, the name company, there are other companies that have the name Evolution, so I was like, and then it was evolution one day. And I said, because I firmly believe as you evolve, you also impact the world around you, whether that's at your home and your relationship. So that's how I came up with the name Evolution.
Amazing, amazing. One thing that I'm taking from your story is that, a lot of our listeners out there, maybe they're in a, whatever relationship, interpersonal, heterosexual, whatever relationship. Sometimes we may find ourselves that, it's just, we're not getting the joy out of that, whatever, fill in the blank, marriage, relationship, job, career, and we decide to do something different, right? And that's what it sounds like. It's just in the way you're describing it, you took, a position through the Catholic Church that, a priest, like very elevated in the community. And then you really spoke your truth, that authentic self, to say, you know what, this isn't who I am or who I want to be anymore. And we evolve, right? Like this evolution. So
Yep.
I think for all of us, it's like, some people feel like, well, I've been in this marriage for 15 years, or I've been in this job for 20 years. And it's like, why change? But back to your quote, it's like, there's nothing to lose, right? I mean, as long as it's done with grace and dignity and respect and love, there's it doesn't have to be the, mudslinging back and forth. It can literally just be like, this isn't working for me right now. And to but I think culturally, and I believe you said you're living currently in Switzerland. Is that correct? Right?
That is
Right.
correct. That's
We have
correct.
in South Africa and myself in the United States, Miami, Florida. There's different societal like implications, right? I mean, whether it's familial, religious, cultural, that dictate to a lot of us what we should be doing at whatever age we're at. So to kind of break free and really claim or reclaim yourself is truly, truly a gift that I think you're sharing with the world. So, and Shireen, I don't know if like, even having like that privy to information, right? Privy to an evolution of about who we are becoming or who we want to be. It truly resonates with me for, for what we're discussing today.
Well, I love what you brought up. And I think you're so spot on because yeah, my story is only powerful in sharing if it enables and is a catalyst for someone else to own their evolution. And there are times where in a relationship or a job or a neighborhood, it can be like you still keep living in the house. Well, the house is paid. I really don't want to move. We're going to clean out the basement, but you're not happy there. You want something else. I think the biggest step is our logical brain, our ego always wants to protect us, right? There's that fear that comes in. What will people think? How do I do it? I don't know where to begin. But it goes back to just being open. And I think sometimes it doesn't mean you always have to make that decision. You might be thinking, I've been married 17 years, we have 3 kids, but things aren't there. Sometimes it's about taking that courageous step to have a conversation with someone you can trust, whether it's a therapist, someone like myself, or a trusted friend, to start to unpack because there's something there to teach you and to heal you. Oftentimes we end up in those situations not because there's something bad or we've done something wrong. It's actually there to help heal us and to draw us more closer into who we are. And I think that is every single one of us has that. And I think It is. We're always evolving. And until we stop breathing, we're always going to be evolving. And you have to be aware of it.
Yeah, but I think, you're right though, like so many people, like many of us, and I've been evolving, quite at a rapid pace for my culture being Italian American. But, having gone through a foreclosure several years ago really just changed, it rocked my world. And now, I speak very openly about it because it freed me. And I didn't realize that it freed me at the time. Like, I'm going to use the word devastated, beyond devastated, because that's not what Italians do. Italians do not rent. You're supposed to be traditional, and you buy one house,
Right.
two houses, and to really just have that world or that illusion. It's like a fantasy being shattered, but there's better to come, and to really not have the constraints of what we're supposed to do because society dictates it to us. So like for
Beautiful.
the listeners out there, for example, it's like, so I have, I'm a professor at Miami-Dade College, and I teach in the mortuary department. I'm the director of the funeral service education program. So we have a lot of non-traditional students coming in, and so many is like, oh, I'm too old to do this. And it's like, you know what? Age is irrelevant. Like it doesn't matter. It's like and I love the quote, how old would you be if you didn't know your date of birth?
Mm-hmm.
It's truly powerful,
I love that.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't I have to find who I have to give credit to on that one, but it's like, it's just an amazing way to live, because we always are setting ourselves up, for example, like what we're supposed to be doing at our age, what we're supposed to be doing in our culture, as opposed to just living, being, freeing, to whatever that means.
Totally. I love that. And the reason I'm in Switzerland is because my partner, I'm 52. I just turned 52 a couple months ago, and my partner's 47, and he'd been a financial investor for many years before we met, gave it up, went to French cooking school, had his own high-end kind of catering and event company. And during the pandemic, we were thinking about making a move. Actually, it was to Miami. And we went to Miami a couple times, met with real estate people. I was all gung-ho, like this is going to be it. And one day we were sitting outside, and he looked at me and he said, "This isn't clicking. Like, this is not clicking for me." And there was a part of me, I was like, no, you need to make it click. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, like you need to make it click, because like, I want the palm tree, but I'm like, okay. And then I was like, but now what? So gave it space, gave it some time. And one day we were out for a big bike ride, and we'd stopped, and he said, if I had to do it over again, I would have loved to be in like luxury hospitality. And I said, well, it's never too late, And he said, yeah, it brings together my financial background and my hospitality, my business sense. And I said, well, it's never too late. He said, yeah, it's funny. He said, the number one school in the world for that is in Switzerland. And they have this very elite program. It's so hard to get into. I think I'm too old. And I said, no, you're not. Anyway, he applied. He got in. That's why we moved here. And now it's leading to, the job and doing everything. Yeah, one of the oldest ones in the class, but thriving from the heart. And I'm a firm believer, like here I am, like, yeah, we moved. It's great. It's wonderful. Adventure feeds the soul. Adventure, and that keeps you moving. And I think anyone that thinks, oh, I can't do it, we didn't have all the pieces figured out. But you can, when you have the desire and you have clarity, and if it is aligned for you, it will keep showing up for you with peace and with ease. If it's not meant for you, things are going to come along. You're going to feel uneasy. You're going to have bad real estate agents. You're going to, all these things that are just going to happen. But if it is meant for you, piece by piece, it will start to show up.
Yeah.
And that's the gift. So it just takes courage. It takes being open and trusting. You don't have to know every piece as you begin.
Yeah.
It will be
Right.
shown to
And
you.
exactly. And remember, courage doesn't mean you're not fearful. You're feeling the fear, but you are choosing to do it while experiencing that fear at the same time. So, and I agree with what you're saying. Something that I've learned is you're only going to know what is meant for you if you let go of what you're holding on to, which is something that, I had to do. Currently at the time, I was very much holding on to the job that I had. And the only way that I was going to know if I could become a business owner is if I completely let go of the idea of, continuing in the career that I was, letting go of any sort of idea that I had of where I thought I was going to be. I had to completely let all of that go and start something very new. And that for me took a lot of courage to do that. And
That's beautiful.
right. And now I look back and I see how far I've come. I would never have gotten to this point today if I didn't make that leap of faith and to have that courage. So I do love this conversation. I think it's really deep. And for the listeners out there, if you really like this kind of deep conversation, please don't hesitate to go and check the previous series out where it's just me and Tanya one-on-one, and we speak some serious topics about communication, divorce, everything and anything, and we go over some real deep conversations. We are not therapists. We don't claim to be therapists. But it's quite beautiful conversations that we had and like we're having right now. So my question to you, Brian, is what makes your business unique?
What makes my business unique is, and I say this, and this isn't to sound like an ego, I think it's the energy of who I am and who founded it and the mission that came into it. And I think my gift to the world is, and through the business, is I'm able to be a bridge in a very kind of unique way of kind of that connection to spirituality, that connection to their self, connection to helping people connect to their heart, but also understanding business. And I think it's interesting, the clients I work with and the people that I've been so fortunate to be part of and with teams, they may not be people that are signing up to go to like learn about your chakras, retreat, or, going to sound baths. But they come in because there's a sense there that they desire to be more connected to themselves. They desire to open up more to their mission. And my work with these individuals, because I understand what it is to be a CEO, I understand what it is to lead teams, I understand what it's like to make very difficult decisions, I understand what it's like to have revenue expectations next to your name. I think it gives me credibility, but at the same time, I'm able to get at the heart of what really is the most important, to help remove some of the baggage that is holding them back, whether it's fear, whether it's the doubt, whether some people call it imposter syndrome, whether it's a sense of releasing. And I think that's what makes it unique, because my work is also highly intuitive. And I really tap into that for all the leaders I work with to help them to connect to that sense, because it's powerful in business and relationships. And I think that's what unearths and helps them to evolve and to evolve others.
Tune in next week for part 3 of Friends from Wild Places.
You've been listening to Friends from Wild Places with Shireen Botha. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast from the links to catch every episode and unleash your passion.